Everyone, I'm Allie Buckman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you today how to do this fun falling flowers necklace. And it's going to be using some great Czech products, including the Czech flower cup beads. I'm going to be using 2 tubes of those, depending on how full you want your necklace to be and how long you want it to be. You are going to use a tube and a half, so you'll have a little bit extra, or you can even go back and add more to make it really full and use up your full tubes. In addition to that, I'm going to be using a couple 15-0s just to hold my flower cups in place. I'm using 2 different green colors for my leaves and for my stems of my flowers, and I'm also using this transparent tea rose in an 8-0. So you have 2 11-0s, 1 8-0, 2 tubes of my flower cups, a little bit of 15-0s, and color-wise for what I'm choosing, for my actual example that I'm going to be making in the video, I'm using the matte metallic Patina green here, very popular color. I'm also using the silver lined Linchen or celery, depending on what you're looking at, and I like those a ton. I actually use them on the example as well. They're one of my go-to seed bead colors. Any 2 colors that are different in the green will work to get you that contrast. I like the matte versus the shine for an additional contrast when you're working on it. Hi everyone, I'm Allie Buckman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you guys today how to make this falling flowers necklace. It's a graduated seed bead based necklace that incorporates some really great Czech flower cup beads that are kind of falling down towards the bottom there. It's going to be using a right angle weave and then just a fringe technique to have those flowers falling. Again, it is graduated, so it gets bigger and bigger as you go down to the bottom, and then it actually goes into a little bit of a Y. For this, we're going to be using a number of different seed beads as well as those flower cups and a cup button for your closure clasp. For the example that I have here, as well as the one that we're making, you're going to need 2 colors of 11-0 seed beads in green. I've done a matte as well as a silver lined bead, so that way I have that contrast. I did the same thing on my example that I made here, so I have that contrast of the matte versus the shine. So you see some difference in your stem versus your leaf. You're going to use these colors. You're going to use just about a gram or so of your silver lined bead, and the silver lined that I picked was one that I go to a lot, and that's the silver lined lichen bead. And what I'm going to be using then for my matte is the matte metallic patina, and this is a great kind of green. I've used a darker green and matted olive on the example that was here. So again, just one that's matte and one that has a shine. You can go darker, lighter, that's up to you. On the example that I've done here, I used the Crystal Vega in the Matubo bead, so I was playing around with some of the bigger 8-0 beads that are more consistent, have that bigger hole. What I'm going to be using for the example that I'm making, just to show a little bit of a difference, is I'm using the transparent tea rose in an 8-0 seed bead. As far as flower cups go, depending on how long you want to make your necklace and how full, if you're making it according to my design and you're doing 18 inches here, you're going to be using about a tube and a half of your flower cups. So I'm going to have about 1/4 of a tube left of each of these flower cup beads. In addition to that, I have some 15-0s. The 15-0s are really just going to hold those flower cups in place. So grab a 15-0 that you have sitting around, or one that's a nice neutral color. This white champagne luster that I'm going to be using is great. I've used it for about 6 projects already, and you can't even tell that I've used it because the 15s go really far. As far as the flower cup colors, I went with the white red luster to really play off that tea rose and to keep it nice and springy. It's actually snowing here, so this is a good necklace to kind of make me in the spring mood rather than looking outside at the snow I have to shovel. And then there's the white Lila gold in the flower cups. Again, we're going to be using a little bit less than a tube, so we're going to be using about 3/4 of a tube of each color. I'm closing it off with an Aztec gold cup button that I'm going to put some of the other seed beads inside of to kind of highlight the colors that I'm working with. As far as a needle, I'm using a size 10 needle, and we're just going to be using 1 because again, it's gone with that right angle weave technique. And then thread-wise, I'm going with green, even though I see that see-through on the pink, the green's going to show up a little bit. Most of my other colors are going to look nice with green. Also because it is falling flowers and you have the leaves and the petals and the stems when you're looking at it, I'm going to stick with that green. The white might stick out a little bit too much for me. Again, it's a right angle weave, so you will see a little bit of the thread, so I figured why not go green. If you do have colors that are lighter, you also may want to think about the white color. For this, it doesn't really matter what size beading thread you're using, if you're using the 0.006 in Wildfire or the 0.008. I'll be using the 0.006 because I have it handy and it's easy to thread. So I'm going to get ready to start building, and we're going to start really with our right angle weave. So you want to dump out a little bit of whatever 8/0 seed bead you are working with. So right now I'm starting with a right angle weave technique. We're going to be using 3 beads, basically adding that to each right angle unit. There's 4 beads in a right angle unit. If you haven't done right angle weave before, you can also stop this video, check out another video on the right angle weave, and come back to this as well, or it's a simple one to learn. I've put a needle on my thread and I've cut about 5 feet of thread. This is a necklace that uses a lot of thread with all of this fringe, so you will be adding more thread to it. I'll show you how to do that at some point in the project as well whenever I run out. I'm going to drop that seed bead down. And this seed bead is just an 11/0 seed bead in gold that I had on my mat from probably my ring project. And I'm going to leave about 2 to 3 inches of thread and take my needle and go back through that bead 2 times, going away from that 3-inch, 2-inch tail. That goes nice and tight. And then I'm going to get ready to start adding on my tea rose, and they're very light. A light pretty pink color. I'm going to add these on in the right angle formation. After you add your stop bead, we're going to put on 4 of our 8/0 seed beads. So I have on 4 of those, and I'm going to let them drop down next to my stop bead. I'm then going to take my needle and thread and go back through 3 beads, the first 3 beads that I did, and my needle is going away from my stop bead. What that's going to do is it circles up the thread, and with a nice tight pull, it's going to get me a little box. I'm then going to add 3 more beads, and I'm going to go back around through that bead that my thread is coming out of. My needle's coming in the other side, and that again is going to circle up my thread, and as I pull that thread, it's going to create my next little box. After I go through the initial bead, I'm going to go through 2 more beads. When I'm coming out, and you'll notice I give a tight pull after each one. When I'm coming out of that bead, I'm going to add 3 more beads because I'm always adding 3. Going back into the bead that my thread is coming out of from the opposite side, pulling nice and tight. And you can see I flip it in my hand as I'm working with it. And then I'm going to sew through 2 more beads. This is just a series of figure 8s. If you put a piece of paper next to you and draw figure 8s, you'll understand exactly how your thread is going and how you're doing this right angle weave. And I'm just going to keep going, adding these 3 additional beads at a time, sewing back from the opposite side of the bead that I'm coming out of, giving a nice tight pull, and then sewing through the next 2 beads in line. I'm going to continue doing this here for a good 4 inches, 4 to 5 inches. If you want it to be 18 inches, you're going to do it for 4 inches. If you want it to be about 20 inches, then you're going to want an extra inch in there, so go for about 5 inches. And then we'll get ready to start adding our falling flowers here. The green beads that you see along the top, those will get added at the very, very end to kind of hold our necklace in place. So right now we're just going through and doing right angle weave for 4 to 5 inches. So I finished my right angle units, and if you're going the same length as me to do that 18 inches, you're going to end up with about 24 right angle units that you're working with. If you want it to be 20 inches, you're going to use about 8 to 10 more right angle units. So you're looking more at 34 right angle units. At this point, I'm coming out and it's just like I'm getting ready to add another one of my right angle units, but I'm going to get ready to add my falling flower stem and leaf and the flower. To do that, I'm going to put on 5 of these also in a row. So I'm going to do that for 5 right angle units. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on 4 of my 11 O's of my stem color. This is going to be my matte color that I'm adding. After that, I'm going to pick up a flower cup, and I add these at random. If you don't want to add them at random or you want to do them in a graduated color, you can do that as well. That you could do, you know, a lighter pink down to a darker and some different colors in between. But I have on my flower cup, and then I'm going to add my 15O bead. The 15O bead is going to lock that flower cup into place. At the same time, when I'm coming up my flower cup, I'm going to go up 1 bead of my 11O. I'm going to pull the needle tightly then and give a nice tight pull. What's going to happen is that 15O kind of locks in the center of that flower cup, and that gets rid of all of my extra thread that was showing. Once I'm up my flower cup there, I'm going to add 3 of my silver lined green color in order to make my leaf. So I'm going to add my first leaf. I've got those 3 beads on, and I'm going to go up through 1 more of my 11O seed beads. So that takes me between my 2nd and 3rd bead. I'm going to give a nice little tight pull, and that's going to create a little leaf with my 11 O's. I'm going to add 3 more beads to create another leaf, and then I'm going to sew up through those first 2 of those 11 O's that I put on my stem, as well as back up through that bead that I was coming out of my right angle unit, so up through that T rose bead as well, a transparent light rose. I'm going to give a nice tight pull, and that locks my 2 little leaves in place, and my first flower cup is in place. I'm going to continue then with my right angle unit, and I'm going to do an empty right angle unit and then one that I add on again. If I do it every single time, it gets really, really full, and you end up kind of losing the prettiness of it. It just starts to look too sloppy. I'm going to continue that right angle unit. There's 1. I'm going to add another one. And when I'm at that right angle unit, then when I get to the second one, I'm going to be coming out, instead of going through 2 beads, what I want to actually do is I want to come out of 1 bead. So I'm not sewing through 2, I'm coming out of 1. That's going to bring me, so I'm coming out at the bottom as well. Again, on go 4 of my stem color. Then I'm going to pick up 1 of my flower cups, going through the back first and coming out the bottom. Once I'm to the bottom, on goes a 15O. I'm going back up through my flower cup and 1 of my 11O beads, the stem. I'm just going through the bead that was closest to the flower cup. When I'm coming out, I'm going to add 3 of my silver lined lichen beads, and then go up 1 more of my 11O. Move that tail out of the way here. I'm going to add 3 more to do my second little leaf. So back up through those 2, and at the same time, I'm going to grab that rose bead. That would be the 3rd bead that I'm going through in that right angle unit. Give a nice tight pull, and you can see them hanging out there. And I'm going to get ready to add my next right angle unit. So again, this one gets an empty right angle unit. Pulling nice and tight. Going down then. I do another right angle unit. Same idea. Coming down that bead. Once I go through the 2 there, I'm just going to come out through. So I'm going back through my 1 bead that my thread was coming out of, and then 1 more. When I'm coming out, that's where I add 1, 2, 3, 4. Add my flower cup. Again, I pick up at random, but that's up to you. Add my 11O. And this same pattern, or 15-0, and back up through 1, 11-0, this same pattern is going to happen again for 5 of my flower cup beads. That being said, we're really going to be using this same exact fringe pattern the whole necklace. So that's why I'm doing so many for you on camera here. Even though it's a very simple concept, we're going to repeat it a lot. So on go my 3 beads to create my first leaf, and then I go back through one of the darker green stem, add 3 more, and then go back up through 2, and at the same time I'm going to go up through that side bead of my right angle unit. So basically I'm finishing up that right angle unit. When you're working with it, it's going to twist just the tiniest little bit on you. That's going to get anchored in place, and these are all going to go and stay to the bottom when we add our green beads right along the top of our right angle weave. I'm going to continue doing this for 2 more passes. That'll give me 5 hanging down right here. So I have 5 beads hanging down. I'm going to do 1 more right angle unit that doesn't have anything, and then I'll show you how to create the graduated look by doing a longer fringe after the 5 single flower cups. So I now have my 5 single flower cups on, and what I'm going to do is start doing my branching cups. So you can see here that as it graduates towards the middle, it starts to get a little fuller. So to make it have that fuller look, we're going to put 3 flower cups on for every other right angle unit. So we went from putting 1 on, and we did 5 of those. Now we're going to put 3 on for the next 5. Once I'm coming out of my right angle unit, like I would be ready to add another one of my flower cups, I'm going to actually add 8 beads before my first flower. So I'm adding 8 beads as my stem. Once I have those 8 beads on, I let them drop down. I'm going to pick up one of my flower cups. Again, I rotate. It doesn't matter which order you pick them up. That's up to you. Once I go through the flower cup and back up through, after adding that 15-0 to keep it in place, I'm going to go up 2 beads instead of 1, like we were doing. Give a nice tight pull at that point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 more of my stem beads, and then I'm going to add another one of my flower cups, a 15-0 to lock that in place. Now my needle is going to go back up the flower cup through the 2 stem beads that I added, and up through 2 more of the stem beads from the original stem that I added my first flower cup to. Give a nice tight pull. When I'm coming out of there, I'm going to add 2 more beads, and I'm going to add my 3rd flower cup. Hook it in with a 15-0. Go back up through that flower cup, through the 2 that you added. And then when I do that, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go up through 2 more seed beads. And that's going to put me out my needle and thread between the 2nd and 3rd bead of the original stem. Here's where I'm going to pick up 3 of my leaves, then go back up through those 2 original stem beads and over to complete my right angle unit. And that's going to get me that first little unit in. Again, I'm going to go 2 right angle units, 1 that doesn't have anything, and then the 2nd right angle unit is when I'm going to attach my next of my 3 flower cup drop. So I have that 1 unit there, add another one on, go through just 1 bead instead of 2, and then again add 8 beads. Once I have those 8 on, I'm going to add a flower cup and a 15-0. I'm going to sew back up through that flower cup and through 2 of my 11-0s that I added in the stem. Add 2 more stem beads, another flower cup, a 15-0 to hold it in place, back up through the flower cup, the 2 stem beads that you just added, and 2 more up towards the right angle unit from the original stem. 2 more beads, and another flower cup. You could easily do this with daggers, you could do this with flower petals, so it doesn't need to be just with flower cups. You can really change this up. After I go up those 2 that I added and the 2 from the original stem, I'm going to get my needle and thread coming out, add 3 more of my leaf up through 2, and then finish off going through that side right angle weave bead. And you can see it starting to get fuller and starting to have that flower drop effect as we're working on it. I'm going to continue again for 5 of these units. So I'm going to do 10 right angle weave units all together. I've already done 4, and every other one I'm going to drop down that group of 3 of my flower cups. So I'm done adding my 5 groups of 3 here in my right angle units, and what I'm going to be doing now is adding my drop that's coming down off my necklace. So when you have it on, it drops and lays really, really nicely. So I'm at the point now where I need to do that drop. And what that's going to be, when you look at the back, you can see it a lot better than when you look at the front, because we want it all concentrated to the front. If you look at the back here, you can tell that it's just right angle units going down. So I'll try to bring that up a little higher so you can see it there. Those right angle units going down. And what we have are 6 right angle units that are going down. So I'm coming out of my last group of 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another right angle unit, just like I've done in the past. So we're adding that 1 right angle unit, and then we're going to add a 2nd right angle unit. After I add the 2nd right angle unit is when I'm going to go in, and also after I throw my beads everywhere, I'm going to go into this right angle unit, and instead of going through 2 more beads, I'm only going to go through 1. So it's going to be as if I was getting ready to add another stem and another flower. Instead, what I'm going to do is add down. So I'm going to do right angle down at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to add 3 more beads, and then I'm going to go back through that bead. Pull nice and tight, and then sew through the next 2. So it's just like we were doing at the beginning, because we're just building an empty right angle weave. Add 3 more beads and do that same thing again. So again, I'm going to do 6 of these right angle units. There's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add my 4th. You can see I like to flip in my hand those right angle units. And then I have my 5th to add. And then after I'm done with this 5th, I get to add my 6th. The 6th one I get to decorate a little bit. So I get to start the look of that kind of falling flowers. That's how this got its name. And it really looks like the flowers are almost draping down. So I've gone through and I've added my 6 right angle units in that downward fashion. So let me get them all twisted here. So I have those 6 right angle units, and they're actually facing down. So they're down there at the bottom. I've gone through like I'm getting ready to add another right angle unit, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of this fringe. Each of the fringe pieces are going to have 2 flower cups on them. The fringe is going to come down 4 seed beads, add my flower cup, back up, add 2 more seed beads, another flower cup, and back up. So just like we did the 3 unit, but we're going to do this 2. So once I'm in place here and I'm not all twisted up, I'm going to add 4 11-ohs in my stem color. Then I'm going to add a flower cup, going through the bell part of the back first, add my 15-oh, back up through 2 beads, and then I'm going to add another flower cup on. And with these a lot, I alternate the flower cup color. So I use the darker color here, that Lila gold. I'm going to use the red line next. Added that. After 2 beads and back up. Once I'm back up through to the top here of that right angle unit, what I'm going to do, I'm right at the top. I'm going to add my 3 beads to be my leaf, and then I'm going to sew through my right angle unit. So I'm sewing through my right angle bead. Then I'm going to be on the other side of my right angle unit, and I'm going to do the same thing. So each side of that center bead is going to get a flower cup coming out of it. So on go 4 beads and a flower cup, a 15-0 to hold it in place, back up through 2. Once I'm coming out the 2, I'm going to add my next flower cup. And when you're doing this, you're really going to want to stay to one side. As we do this, I'll show you. When I picked up the example, I showed you the back, because we're really going to keep all of these little flower cups to the front. So I'm adding my second flower cup. I'm going up through, and you can vary it. This one, what I'll do is I'll go up through 1 bead instead of 2, and I'll add my leaf there. So I'm up through there. Oh, I got my tail in my way here. Get that out of there. One of these is the tail. That one right there. It's all the way down there at the bottom, so it doesn't want to pull. This is a good way to keep a pliers or something handy too, just to show you. Just to show you how that knotting's going on. Pull that all out and get rid of all these knots here. You can see everybody does this. This is why I tell people to don't use too much thread, because then when you do get something like that, it's hard to pull out. Once you have those beads on, I'm going to add my little leaf. So 3 go on. Sew back up through the last bead. Now I've done either side of that same bead. I'm going to go up my right angle unit on the side here, and I'm also going to go through the next one on the stair steps. So if you think of your right angle unit as a ladder, the sides here are what we're just going to sew up through. The rungs are what we're going to add flower cups to either side of those rungs. So I'm going in to add 4 more of my seed beads, and then another flower cup held in place by my 15-0. I'm going to add then, after going back up through and going up through 2 of my 11-0s, I'm going to add my next flower cup into place. And then after I add that flower cup, I'm going to go up through 1 or 2 beads, it doesn't matter which, add my leaf, and I'm going to sew straight through that rung to the other side and add another leaf collection on the other side. Again, I want to try to all stay to kind of the front of my beads. So I let my right angle unit lay down, and I try to work so they all pop out on one side of my right angle unit. So as I start to add, I always go through that ladder rung after I do the second one, kind of push them to the front, and it's going to start to get a little jumbled. So up the side, so through the ladder rung of the next one in line that you're going to add to. I'm going to add to the right here, and then I'm also going to add to the left. As you proceed, this is going to start to get fuller and fuller looking, and you're getting fuller and fuller drop that you're working on. I'm going to continue on adding 2 beads at a time up my ladder rung and get that nice full effect. So just to show you here, you can see it getting a little bit fuller, and I still have 3 more rungs to add to each side, and that'll really fill it up. So when you're looking at it then and you have that turn, it's really going to have a nice drop to it, and it gets that really pretty, and these colors are really looking vintagey for me. It's really, really pretty color. I almost wish I would have gone back and added a little bit of a golden color to it, which you can always do also, but it'll really pop once I get that green along the top. But I'm going to continue adding to the left and to the right, and the next one will go to the right and to the left, and vice versa till I'm the whole way right up along the back. And then we're just going to repeat the first side on the other side to make our necklace match on either side. So I've just gone through here and I've added the last of my little flower cups that are falling there right along the vine. And now that I have that little vine section done, or that little Y section in the middle, all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to the sides and repeat what I did here on the side, adding 5 groups of 3 flower cups, 5 groups of 1 flower cup, and then 24 of my right angle units. When you're coming out of your flower cups on your little vine or little fringe part, all I'm going to do is, after I come out of it, I'm going to sew up to turn that corner of the right angle weave. I want to make sure my thread doesn't get caught here in any of my leaves or vines. But now I'm on the side, and all I'm going to do is continue my right angle unit. I have my 3 beads on. I'm continuing that right angle unit, adding those 3 beads. I'm going to then flip over here so I'm at the side. Somehow I sewed through 2 beads. I'm going to unsew through that one. I'm on the side here. I go through 2 more beads. Then I'm going to get ready and add my next right angle unit. So on go 3 more beads. Add my next right angle unit. And this time I'm going to get ready to do the same thing that I did on the other side. I'm going to sew through 1 bead. After sewing through the bead that my thread was coming out of, and I'm going to get ready to add my flower cups. So on go 8 of my 11 beads, and then on goes 1 flower cup, and I'm just doing the 3 rotation again. So my 8 beads go on, a flower cup goes on, up 2 beads, add 1, up 2 more, add another. So you're just going to continue the same pattern, basically going right along and doing a mirror image of the other side. So it's not too hard once you get it, and once you know right angle weave, it just takes a little bit of counting, which isn't my favorite thing to do, but this necklace turns out so pretty. I've gotten a bunch of compliments on it. As I was designing it and coming up with the first one, that purple and green, I really started to fall in love with it and like it as I made it. Sometimes when you start making something, you're not really sure, and then as I got to that middle, I really started to love it. Again, it has a very vintagey, kind of Victorian look based on the colors that I picked, but you can really make it look funky by using some magic colors in there, changing up the colors a lot, and again, add some leaves, add some drops, play around with what you put inside of this, and then continue on. So that's my first of my 3 in place there, and I have 4 more to add, continuing to add it down the sides of my necklace just like I did on the other side. So I've gotten to the point where I need to add some thread, so I just told you I would show you how to do that. So when I add the thread, what I'm going to do is I take my needle off my existing thread, and I'm cutting a new length of thread. I'm going to take my new piece of thread and tie it around the old piece. So the old piece is just hanging out there. And I'm right near a leaf when I'm talking about where I'm adding. It's a good place to add. So my new piece is getting tied around the old piece. I'm going to then slide that knot that I created down on that old piece right next to my stem there, right next to my seed beads. I'm going to take those 2 pieces of thread then, those 2 little tails, and I'm going to tie them together. And I probably could have made it easier on myself by doing that a little bit closer, but that's okay. And also leaving myself a little bit more of a tail. So I have that right next in there, right next to my bead. I'm going to tie another knot. And I'm doing square knots, basically switching hands as I'm tying my thread on. And this necklace does require a lot of thread, so I've actually already added thread once. Once I have that knot there, then you can take your thread burner, burn down. I'll go back through and glue, cut it down. It's kind of up to you. I'm going to thread my needle and then get ready to go and add my little fringe, the rest of the fringe there. I actually am on my 5th unit here of my triples. So next I'm going to go into my single little flower cups and then get ready again to just do those 24 rows of my right angle weave. So I've gotten to the end here of adding my single flowers and my triple flowers and getting my 24 rows of my right angle weave. And sorry for the beginning of the video, I was thinking because last time I used 3 different colors of flower cups, you actually use almost exactly the whole tube. You're left with 4 beads left. So you can actually make 2 more if you want, going up the sides, that's kind of up to you. So you're really kind of using the whole tubes of those. When you're coming out the end here of your 24th bead, or your 24th right angle weave, you're going to act like you're going to basically continue on with right angle weave by adding extra beads. So your thread's coming out one of those rungs, if you turn it to the side, that last bead. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the loop to attach my cup button to. And that's going to come right out of the last bead and go then right into the last bead on the other side. I'm going to start out with my darker color, and I'm going to add 5 of my darker color of green, and then I'm going to add about 16 or 18 of my lighter green. You really can use either color, it doesn't really matter. This is a good way at the very end to kind of clean up your bead mat a little bit. Put all those beads on that you have left sitting there. Gives you an opportunity to do so. So I have those beads on, and then I'm going to put 5 more of my darker color on. And 4 and 5. Once I get that 5th bead on of my darker color, I'm going to make my loop. Again, all I'm doing for the loop is I'm coming out of that last one of my 8/0 beads. I'm going to go back through that in a round fashion, pull nice and tight, and then I'm going to reinforce it. So my thread and needle are going to go the whole way around all of the beads again. Starting at the end there. Anytime you have a clasp or closure, you always want to make sure to reinforce that clasp or closure. It also looks nice at the end here. If you do a peyote stitch, you can use some of the cream beads. Do a little peyote stitch on the inside with the 15 O's, and that can kind of pull it together as well. Or you could even do your loop out of the 8 O's as well. Once you're through, you're going to want to stay to the top of the necklace. So the necklace naturally is going to have a top and a bottom. Right now my thread is coming out on the bottom end. So what I want to do is sew through that 8/0 seed bead so that I'm coming out at the top. Because what we're going to be doing is adding seed beads along the top row. When you look at the example here with the matubos, you can see those 2 11/0s go right along the top and kind of decorate it a little bit. When I'm coming out the side here, I'm going to start adding those seed beads. I have a nice big pile of my darker green beads spilled out, and I'm going to pick up one of those and sew through the top bead. So the bead that would be at the very top of that last right angle unit. So when you're looking at the top, you're going to look and make sure that those flower cups are all at the bottom. When I'm coming out then, on are going to go 2 of my 11/0s, and I'm going to sew right along the top of my right angle weave, adding 2 11/0s, 2 more beads, going through the next 8, 2 more beads, going through the next 8. So this is really simple. The nice thing is, it kind of reinforces the whole design and the whole necklace and gives a little bit more strength to it, because it's not a light necklace, it's a nice kind of substantial necklace. And you're pulling that the whole way, adding 2 right along the line. If you want to, you can also decorate the bottom. I'll go over that with you, but you don't have to. When you're looking at the Matubo one, I did not decorate the bottom. I kept it open. So that's kind of up to you. But I'm going to go along this whole line now, adding those 2 seed beads in place. That's going to give a nice color to the top of the necklace. So I'm at the end of my Falling Flowers necklace, and it has a great kind of waterfall effect going on with the flower cups here at the bottom. It's going to look great on. I'm excited to wear it. And it's going to be pulled a little bit with those 2 11-0 beads in between the 8s. If you pull tightly, you may want to go 2-1-2-1 or 2-2-1, 2-2-1. That's up to you. You could actually use both colors also and do 2-2-1, doing the light and dark. When I did it with the Matubos, the 2s fit in a little bit better because they're just a tiny hair of a bit bigger than a regular size 8-0 bead. So when you're looking at it on here, it stretches out a little bit more. As I wear it, the curvature will definitely give up. I tend to pull very tightly too on my right angle weave, but it will lay fine once I have it on. If you want to, like I said, you can go through and decorate the bottom of that right angle weave as well. I would suggest if you are doing that, I'm not going to do that, but if you are doing it, with a lighter color would look really nice. And I'll go over how you would do that if you want to. Basically, after we put on our cup button, you would just circle back through and put the 11-0s on the bottom row. What you do want to make sure, if you do put the 11-0s on the bottom row of your right angle weave, that you want to push all your flowers up and that you're running them underneath the flower cups and the little stems. So I'm here at the end and I'm ready to put on my cup button. I'm going to take my stop bead off my end or just move it down so it's out of the way. On this end here, what I'm going to do is bring, just like I did with the other ones where I kind of circled around that last 8-0 bead, I'm going to do the same thing coming up then through the cup button. So I have on 2 beads that I'm going to be coming, whoops, sorry, got to come out my end 8-0 first. To get there, I'm going to put on 1 bead. So down through that 8-0 bead there. And then I'm going to put on 2 of my 11-0s. I'm going to go up through the back of my cup button. And actually, to decorate my cup button when I'm coming out the top, I'm going to add 1 of my 8-0s to, I think. So I'm going to use my lighter green, and then I'm going to add my rose color and my silver lined green. Go down through the cup button on the other side, and I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s of the darker green color. Then I'm going to sew through that 8-0 bead down towards the stop bead. Get that tail out of the way. I'm going to pull nice and tightly and not get a knot in it. I'm getting all twisted here. So I pull nice and tight and that just circles it around just like I did for the loop portion. Again, I'm going to reinforce this, going up through those 2 beads, out my cup button and through the beads of the cup button at the same time. Down the cup button on the other side and down those 2 beads. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go down the 11-0 that I put on the end, going through that 8-0 bead, around the circle of the last right angle unit, and then I'm going to tie a knot to finish it off, adding and finishing off with that end beginning thread. So I'm just going to cut my needle off here, cut the stop bead off. I have my 2 threads and I'm just going to tie a knot with them. Once I have that and my knot tied, if you wanted to, rather than cut the thread off, that's when you would go back and you would add that bottom row and then knot it off somewhere on the other side. I'm just going to knot it off here. Then I'm going to take my thread burner, go back to anywhere that I added thread and fuse those threads together, adding them so that way you don't have any breakage points. If you use glue and you're a gluer, I use super new glue a lot. If you do use that, you can also add that at this time. And I'm going to tie those down. I'm going to take a burner, burn all the fused ends, and then I will have my necklace completed. I'm going in with the burner here. I'm just going to burn down short. And then I'm going to take my burner right on the edge, especially because I have green thread and I'm okay with that. I'm going to kind of let it ball up on itself, fusing those 2 pieces together. Again, anytime that I have an area where I had to link, I'm going to take that burner and kind of burn the thread down. You can burn the thread down, you just want to make sure not to burn through any knots that you did. You're basically fusing the threads together. And I add one more spot right there. If you do need to, like I said, you can cut them down more. You can try to fuse them together. So it looks like I actually added thread 3 times on this one. I lose count after a while. I try not to start out with a huge piece of thread because it really makes it difficult for you guys to see if I'm constantly pulling my thread off my project. So I usually, when I'm making off camera, start with about 5 feet of thread. This would have used probably right about 9 feet of my beading thread. And then there you have it. You have your falling flowers necklace all finished. It's great, like I said, a little reminder of spring. It's very vintagey looking in this color, but in the purple color, it's not quite, it's a little bit more funky. Like I said, the magic colors, you can make it even more funky. You can see how I switched it up a little bit here. I used more cup buttons or more flower cups. Again, use some petals. You can do more leaves. You can really play around with the design of this necklace using a lot of different beads that are at your disposal. It's a great technique, just using the right angle weave and some fringe, and a great use for these flower cup beads. Hopefully, if you get a chance, you watch some info about those flower cups as well, some product spotlights that we have on all these different awesome products that we get in. If you like, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get notifications when we do new videos on product updates and new designs. You can also hit the show more right underneath and you can get a list of materials that are used for this necklace. And stop by one of your local Potomac Bead Company stores, pick up materials, hang out with us, make a fringe necklace or two. If you can't get to one of our stores, you can always shop with us online. Thanks a lot for watching, thinking spring and happy beading, and have a great rest of your day.